Imagine you are walking through a forest, but this isn't a forest you recognize. There are no flowers, no grass, just towering mossy trees that scrape the sky and ferns the size of houses. The air is thick, heavy, and wet. It smells like rotting vegetation and ozone. You hear a buzzing sound. At first, you think it's a fly near your ear, but the sound gets deeper, louder. It starts to vibrate in your chest. It sounds like a small helicopter approaching from the mist. You look up, expecting to see a bird or maybe a drone. But what breaks through the fog isn't a machine, and it certainly isn't a bird. It has 4 transparent wings, shimmering with veins, stretching 2.5 feet wide. It has thousands of eyes locked onto your movement, and hanging beneath its body, its legs are curled into a basket of spikes, ready to snatch you up. You have just entered the territory of the Meganeura, the eagle-sized dragonfly that ruled the prehistoric skies. Welcome to Primeval Life. Today, we are traveling back 300 million years to answer one terrifying question. If this monster insect was alive today, would you survive the encounter? To understand the monster, we first have to understand its world. This is the Carboniferous period. Scientists often call this the age of giant insects. If you took a time machine back to this era, the first thing you would notice is the air. Today, the oxygen level in our atmosphere is about 21%, but back then, it was skyrocketing up to 35%. This supercharged atmosphere did 2 things. First, it made the world incredibly flammable. Lightning strikes would cause firestorms that burned for months. But secondly, and more importantly, it hacked the biology of insects. See, insects don't have lungs like you and me. They breathe through tiny holes in their bodies called spiracles. In our modern world, if an insect gets too big, it can't get enough oxygen to its organs and it suffocates. Physics puts a limit on their size. But in the Carboniferous, the air was so rich with oxygen that those limits were shattered. Spiders grew to the size of cats, millipedes grew to the size of cars, and the Meganeura became the king of the sky. This wasn't just a big bug, it was an evolutionary masterpiece of killing. Let's look at the stats. The Meganeura had a wingspan of up to 28 inches. That's roughly the size of a modern crow or a small hawk. But unlike a bird, which has hollow bones and feathers, this was an armored tank. It was an aerial predator that occupied the same ecological niche that eagles do today, but instead of talons, it had something much worse. Look at its face. The Meganeura had huge compound eyes that wrapped around its head. It had 360-degree vision. It could see you before you even knew it was there. But the real horror was its legs. Modern dragonflies are harmless to humans. They catch mosquitoes. But Meganeura hunted much larger game. Its legs were covered in sharp, stiff spines. When it hunted, it didn't land. It hunted on the wing. It would dive bomb its prey, creating a basket with those spiked legs. It would scoop up its victim in mid-air, the spikes trapping the animal so it couldn't escape. And what was on the menu? It didn't just eat other bugs. Fossil evidence suggests that Meganeura was powerful enough to hunt small amphibians and early reptiles. Imagine being a Hylonomus, one of the earliest reptile ancestors, looking like a small lizard. You are scurrying across a log. Suddenly, a shadow blocks out the sun. Before you can react, you're lifted into the air by a buzzing monster, carried to a high branch, and eaten alive by mandibles strong enough to crack shells. This brings us to the scenario that keeps people awake at night. What if Meganeura existed today? And what would happen if it decided to attack you? Let's be realistic. A single Meganeura probably couldn't lift a full-grown human off the ground. We're too heavy.
but that doesn't mean you're safe. The speed of a modern dragonfly is impressive, about 30 to 35 miles per hour, but scaled up to the size of Meganeura with that muscle mass, it would be like getting hit by a major league fastball made of chitin and spikes. If a Meganeura rammed into you at full speed, the impact alone could knock you down. Its spiked legs would rake across your skin, leaving deep, jagged lacerations. But the real danger isn't one dragonfly, it's a swarm. Dragonflies are often territorial. If you walked into a nesting ground during mating season, you wouldn't be dealing with one eagle-sized insect, you'd be dealing with dozens. The buzzing would be deafening. They would dive bomb your head, biting with mandibles designed to crush armor. They wouldn't need venom to kill you. The blood loss and the sheer trauma of the attack would be enough. It's a nightmare scenario, trapped in a swamp, knee-deep in mud, while the sky turns black with wings. But here's the twist. As terrifying as the Meganeura was, it wasn't the monster that eventually killed it. So where did they go? Why aren't we fighting giant dragonflies today? The common theory is the oxygen. As the Carboniferous period ended, the climate changed, the rainforests collapsed, oxygen levels dropped. The insects literally couldn't breathe anymore. They had to shrink or die. But there's another theory, a theory that suggests they were hunted out of extinction. New research suggests that as the first ancestors of birds and pterosaurs began to evolve, they were more agile than the giant dragonflies. The Meganeura, once the king of the sky, suddenly became slow and clumsy compared to these new, warm-blooded reptiles. The hunter became the hunted. They were eaten into extinction by the very creatures that would eventually evolve into the birds we see today. Today, dragonflies are beautiful, delicate creatures. We watch them hover over ponds and think they look peaceful. But the next time a dragonfly lands on your hand, look closely at it. Look at those jaws. Look at those multifaceted eyes. It is a miniature of a monster, a tiny echo of a time when the insects ruled the earth and our ancestors were nothing more than terrified snacks hiding in the mud. It's probably a good thing the air changed, because if the oxygen levels ever rise again, the monsters might come back. What do you think? If you had to survive 24 hours in the Carboniferous period with these giant insects, what weapon would you choose? A flamethrower? Or maybe just a giant fly swatter? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into the deep past, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We have much bigger monsters to hunt in the next video. This is Primeval Life. Stay wild.